Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Bryan. It's been a while since I've been able to do any videos for you guys here on YouTube, but I'm so excited that today I'm able to bring to you a new tutorial in Davinci 17 where I get to use the HDR wheels. In this video, we're going to be able to take this footage and we're going to turn it into this footage. Now this is a quick and easy method in Davinci where we're just gonna rebuild to the footage that we already shot with on set in the original vision that we had. And we're gonna be able to fill in the gaps in between to get some minor tweaks to get that nice polished look that we want. Really easy tutorial to follow along. It should take us about 10 minutes, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so we're in Davinci now. I wanted to show you guys this real quick. So before I dive into it, we wanted to go ahead and showcase like what the process looks like right off the bat. And you can see I just have 6 nodes here. In fact, I'm only using 5 of them. And this is really easily done with the color space transform. It's just an easy tool to use to be able to rebuild your footage so you can realize the vision that maybe your director had on set or what you had when you originally shot the footage. For this tutorial, we're going to use some basic film codecs that come with Davinci 17. So you don't have to get any third-party plugins or any software. We're just going to work with what we have. So let's go ahead and get started though. I just want to break this down. This is the full color grade right here. So if I turn this off, this is what I shot out of the camera. Now, technically, this isn't exactly what I shot out of the camera. If you come over here, you'll notice that I have edited my B-raw footage. Now I shoot on Blackmagic Design, specifically Gen 5 color science. And this is actually what came out of the camera right here. Now it looks like, whoa, this is really underexposed. And I purposely did that just because of the lighting that I had on the set. Mostly because I wanted to capture the look of this light here. I wanted to shoot in low light, but I had this light behind him for this specific shot, and I'm using this for some promo material. So I shot a little underexposed, and I know I'm gonna have to fix that. But it's also me understanding my tool set. So my camera has the ability to shoot with a range of ISO. Basically, I'm not married to just one ISO. I can go 1,000 in one direction or 1,000 another direction. And so once I come in here, I want to switch to clip. And I just switched my ISO up to 2000 so I can get those values up. And I went into film using Blackmagic Design and Gen 5 color science. And so I'm able to get this look here. Let's go ahead and walk through this real quick. The first thing that I did was I came over here and I used a color space transform. One of the reasons why I pulled this node back a little bit is because then I started adding a node like this one, which we will add as well, where it has our LUT. The other nodes in here are just fine tweaks to get some balance going, so color correction where we need it, and just to lift up values where we want. And so we end up with a shot like this. Now, as with color grading, there's a little bit of science involved as well too, but there's also some artistry. So I'm not going to be able to rebuild this exactly the same way, but we're going to get it really, really close. So for this one, I'm just going to move these nodes up here and I'm going to disconnect these just by simply clicking and dragging, keeping it easy. And what I want to do is I'm going to create a new node. Let's disconnect that one too. And let's pipe this in like so. Let's make sure that our footage is good the way we want it. That's awesome. I'm going to create another node here. This is my base node, and let's drag this all the way over like so. We're actually going to replicate this entire string right here of nodes. And on this one, I'm going to come to OpenFX, and as you can see, I already have it typed into the search bar, but look up color space transform and drag and drop that onto that node. And I know I shot in film gen. So let's take a look at that. And voila, right off the bat, I rebuild what I already had, but with a lifted exposure. Why is it lifted? Because I edited the metadata from the clip itself. So let's dive back in. We have these first 2 done. I'm going to close the OpenFX down. And let's go ahead and start manipulating this to get this look that we want. So the first thing I want to do is click on this node and hit Alt-S twice to create 2 new layers. Actually, let's do a third new layer. And this first one, let's go into the HDR wheels. Now, the HDR wheels are amazing. They are a new tool that was given to us in Davinci 17 and allows us to really break into the dynamic range of our footage. Now, I shot using the film codec for B-raw, which has 16 bits of color depth. It has an immense amount of range, more so than just your simple DSLR. Paying attention to the scopes that I have down here, I know that I'm resting pretty low because I shot low light. If we go to the waveform, we'll notice we're pretty well white balanced in most areas. The screen, of course, is blue, but what we're looking at here is the shirt area, and it's pretty close to white balance. There's a little magenta in there, and so we should probably pull that out, but first what I want to do is just get the levels where I want it. So let's start with the global. I want to lift the exposure ever so slightly. Let's go back to parade here. Just to nest this around here. Saturation is okay. I'm just going to boost that very slightly, like 0.01. Now let's go to the blacks. I just want to check this out. Let's move over to another hero frame. Let's move these blacks up just slightly. If I go too high, not a lot's happening. So maybe we do need to rest in the darks. And blacks would be at the zeros here. There we go. So we're going to move our darks up just slightly. Don't need to saturate them. Let's move our shadows up even more. Basically, what I'm trying to do is trying to relax this down here. And this looks good. We may come back and modify these later once we put our LUT on, but I want to get at least a skeletal structure in so that when I go back, I can work procedurally. On the next node, I want to come in and I actually want to work with just my primaries and my log wheels. So we're going to come over here and instead of dynamic range, just go to our regular primaries. I want to work in log and I want to tweak something real quick. I know that I need to move these up. So what I'm going to do is going to come down to the shadow. I'm just going to lift this up a little bit and I'm going to set my range here so that I can relax this a little bit like so. Small changes. Not playing with any colors or any balancing yet. We could go in here into the midtones and pull out some magenta. So to do that, I can come in here and just pull this back slightly. Nice little change. Okay, cool. This node I'm going to ignore for just a few moments. Let's create that new node now for the LUT. So I'm going to hit Alt-S with this node highlighted. And what I want to do is come over here to the LUTs. Let's go to the film looks. And I'm going to use my standard, let's say Kodak 2383 D60 in this case. Let's just drop that on. And you'll see, whoa, it really crunches out my footage. So what I can do is come over here to the contrast and just simply just reduce the contrast. There you go. And now we have this nice film look, but we're not quite there. We got to make a few more modifications. So let's stick with this for now. Let's come back here to a HDR and we're going to pay attention to our scopes here. So I don't like how crunched the blacks are here. So let's come down here to the Hdr Wheels and let's start with our shadows and let's lift that up. Let's do our darks and let's relax those just slightly. Actually, just bring those up too. Bring this down. Cool. Let's go to the lights. Okay, just creating a little bit more where I want it, some more value. We can even saturate just slightly. Go to our highlights, same thing. I want to bring in more values. Come here, maybe some more here. And you can see right here in her shirt, we're pulling out some values. We're lifting up the values a little bit, and that's what we want using our wheels. One thing I want to check here is my chromaticity, and we're safe. We're in Rec 709. That looks good. Let's go to our wheels on the third node, and we can come in here and change the names of them if we want, but in this case, that's okay. So let's come in here and let's just work on this. Go to our wheels, and I'm going to go to my actual primary wheels here. And let's go back to the parade, and I want to play with this a little bit to get this to look just a little bit better. So we can reduce some more contrast through this node, play with the pivot so it pulls values up, and then on the lift, drag that down. Maybe a little bit on the midtones too, but on the gain, I want to lift. There we go. Now we're getting this nice contrast while maintaining the light in the back, and I actually really like the colors so far. Gives us that nice film look that I'm looking for. I have no noise or grain into this, and we'll probably add that on this first node here. But you can see now how we've been able to go from that footage and get this nice contrast look without blowing out our values, where we don't crunch our blacks and we don't lift our whites through the roof. We're nice and rested here, and the blacks are now resting at the 128 region. We have some reds here that are dipping, but that's okay. That's going to be fine as long as we're in our saves. If you have your broadcast save set properly, that it'll look fine. And look, I'm going for the specific look here that it has this nice faded. Looks like there's an atmosphere around. There's some dust in the air, which, by the way, there is when I shot this. And that way we don't have like the super high contrasted look. Looking at the skin tones here, they look really solid. What we can do though is we can push this even further. We can use our curves tool here, and I can go to the custom curves tool, and we can play with the contrast a little bit. Still looks good. Let's go back to our HDR wheels and let's play a little bit more just to dial this look in real quick. And let's go to the very end to the specular. And if I come down here and I increase the exposure in the specular, not a lot's going to happen. I don't think the lights now no longer rest. Specular would be like the top 1,000 right here. Pretty sure it's going to be in the highlights. Yeah, it's in the highlights. You can see it start to maneuver. Okay, so in the lights, let's lift this slightly. And I want to saturate. And now I want to start adding some colors in. I've dialed in my values. Let's get some colors going. So I'm going to add some saturation across. On this fourth node, let's come back in and let's play with our colors. So let's go to the primary wheels and let's work from midtones and out. So what I do want to do is I like this nice warm but soothing look. The blues are in the back, the warms are in the front. I know the midtones are resting here quite a bit. You can look at the graph here, and let's bring this up slightly. So I'm just going to add a little bit of red, not too much. Let's do 0.01. Okay, play with our wheels a little bit, and there you go. Just a little bit of warmth to it. The highlights we can cool just a tad bit. There you go. And now we have some warmth in the foreground, some cools in the back. And last but not least, what I do want to do is dial in this look a little bit more before I add some noise. So we'll come here to, remember we lowered the contrast on this, bring that back just slightly. There you go. And let's add that grain in. If you're in DaVinci Studio, you have film grain. So I'm just going to add the film grain. Let's just add that in to that first node. Most people will add it to the last node. In this case, I actually want to add it to the first node. That way it carries through the whole process. This is one of the rare occasions where I do this. Every now and then you'll see me add a node here, throw the grain on this node. But what I want to do is actually throw it on the first node. I'm going to use, in this case, let's do a 35mm, even though I shot differently. And we'll just play with the grain itself. We don't need a lot of grain. You can see it really pop right here. Okay. Just gonna pull that back. And now we have some grain there to get that nice, film look. Polish it off. Some people won't need it. I prefer putting noise into my plates, and it gives it that natural look. And now we have that finished shot.
DaVinci is such a powerful software when it comes to color grading. Now, personally, I edit in Premiere and Avid and other locations and packages first before I go into DaVinci. However, you can edit in DaVinci as well, but nothing compares to the color grading tools that DaVinci has to offer. So let me know what you guys think. Is DaVinci your favorite software to use to color grade, especially DaVinci 17? If you like this video, please be sure to like. Also subscribe to the channel for more content, as I usually upload videos quite often. Even though I've been on hiatus, I will be resuming my tutorials and other content here over the next couple of weeks. Be sure to hit that bell icon so you know when those videos go live, and I'll see you in the next video.